Hi guys, so my name is Carla and I'm going to be presenting Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, which focuses on Walter Benjamin's essay, The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction. Yana will also be presenting as well, but I will be presenting the first half and Yana will be presenting the second half. So let's get started. Here's just some background information on Walter Benjamin. So he was a German Jewish philosopher, a literary critic, and an essayist. In his works, he Benjamin's essay, The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, is known to be a major work in the history of modern aesthetic and political criticism, and is considered to be a rather insightful interpretation on the role that technological reproducibility plays in shaping the aesthetic experience. And in this work, Benjamin primarily focuses on the effects of the art forms of film and photography, and how they've contributed to the decline of the autonomous aesthetic experience. Now, Benjamin tackles a lot of subjects and themes in this essay, such as the aura of a work of art, the artistic authenticity of the mechanical reproduction and its cultural authority, the aestheticization of politics for the production of art, and he also discusses the loss of art's ritualistic meaning and the ever-increasing importance placed on exhibition and the democratization of art. So this is just going to be a brief introduction of Benjamin's argument for his theory. So through his study of the capitalist mode of production, Marx showed a clear prediction of what was to be expected of capitalism in the future, which was increasingly harsh exploitation of the proletariat. And this would eventually coalesce and culminate into a self-destructive environment for capitalism caused by these changes in the conditions of production. Benjamin himself said, and I quote, "Ultimately, the creation of conditions would make it possible for capitalism to abolish itself." Now, Benjamin states how these changes in the conditions of production has already taken place over the course of many years and is now being exhibited in all areas of culture and society, most notably art. And art is included in the concept known as the superstructure in Marxism, which basically defines everything not connected to production. So things like art, philosophy, religion, law, media, science, and politics. And what Benjamin sets out to do in this essay is to characterize what he refers to as the developmental tendencies. And these developmental tendencies describe the development of art in the present conditions of production. Benjamin distinguishes these tendencies from traditional aesthetic values and concepts like creativity, genius, eternal value, and mystery. And Benjamin relates these tendencies to bourgeois and fascist ideologies and to the conditions which were inevitably generated out of capitalism itself and therefore provoke revolutionary demands in the politics of art. Now, generally, art has always been reproducible. Art has always had the ability to be copied. But now, with technological advancements, art can be replicated entirely and accurately. An example of this would be the art of photography, which can obviously directly capture what the photographer is seeing. And this, coupled with the advent of film and sound, has resulted in a certain kind of standard in technological reproduction. And this describes the reproduction of all known works of art, which Benjamin argues has had a profound effect on art in its traditional form. Here I will summarize Benjamin's views on the mechanical reproduction's authenticity, the decay of the aura, as well as his views on the roles tradition and perception play. So what does a mechanical reproduction lack, even the most perfect reproduction? Benjamin argues that it lacks that unique and characteristic here and now of that specific work of art, its unique existence. The reproduction lacks any changes that was made in the original, any of its history. For example, a reproduction of the Mona Lisa does not contain the underlying sketch that Da Vinci made, or any changes in color or cover-ups. It is this here and now that gives an art piece its authenticity. Now, comparing and contrasting between the reproduction of art by hand and reproduction of art by technology. Firstly, the art piece retains full authentic authority when made by hand, as opposed to by technological reproducibility. Technological reproducibility is more independent from the original than manual reproduction. It also serves the purpose of acting in the place of the original, and it is these aspects of technological reproducibility and the mechanical reproduction that devalue the here and now of the artwork by manipulating the artwork's original cultural context and by diminishing the aesthetic value of the original by its existence. Now, the reproduction of art hinders tradition. The handing of objects down to preserve culture by making that act obsolete. An example of this is film, which disturbs this traditional act and whose purpose lies in the fact of technological reproducibility, of its mechanical reproduction. Now, modes of perception change over eras and are shaped by the course of history, and the changing of these mediums of perceptions indicates the decay of the aura. And the aura can be understood as the own personal uniqueness of a work of art. Presently, the aura relies on two conditions: the desire of the masses to view the art closely, and the desire of the masses for overcoming its uniqueness and grasping it as a reproduction. Now, these two desires intensify every day, and Benjamin states how the dismantlement of the aura is a signal of a mode of perception that seeks the sameness in an object, and it is a perception that extracts sameness even in what little exists within unique and singular objects. Now, an art piece's uniqueness is tied to its tradition and its aura. The first works of art were created for ritualistic purposes, and so the aura holds ties in the ritual. The use value of art was for the ritual, for the cult, and technological reproducibility for a piece whose sole purpose was for the ritual would be redundant, as the object would lose its power and its aura. So what role does technological reproducibility play now? Well, it serves to sever the ritualistic ties from the work of art, and so the work of art no longer serves a social function. And since the social value of art changes when the value system of art changes, this severing from the ritual results in a large significance placed upon the form of exhibition, which I will expand upon shortly. As I stated in the previous slide, artistic production holds roots in the ritual and cult value. However, cult value tends to cause the artwork to be coveted. It strives to keep the artwork out of sight from the masses, at least for most of the time. Now, in the age of technological reproducibility, which severs the artwork's ties to the ritual and cult value, the opportunities for exhibition increases, as well as the importance on the fact. With the exhibition value of the art becoming much more important in the age of mechanical reproduction, a qualitative transformation has resulted, leading to the work of art becoming a construct and inhabiting new functions, such as the artistic function. This qualitative transformation is seen the most fully evident in cinema. Film does not create cult value since it puts the audience in the position of the camera and that of the critic. Similarly, in photography, the exhibition value overshadows cult value on all counts. However, the cult value was able to persist in the forms of portraiture, which held a significant place in early photography. In the prehistoric era, technology existed primarily for ritualistic reasons. Back then, technology was made for the maximum possible use of human beings for the purpose of performing magical practice and rituals, and presently, technology reduces the use of human beings to a minimum. The second technology's origins begins at the point where humans began distancing themselves from nature. The first technology sought to master nature, and the second aims at an interplay between nature and the human experience. The social function of art today is to that interplay of the second technology, and the function of film is just that. Film aims to train humans in the comprehension needed to deal with the influence and role of technology that expands each and every day. Benjamin says on the matter that this process teaches human beings that technology will release them from their enslavement to the powers of the apparatus only when humanity's whole constitution has adapted itself to the new productive forces which the second technology has set free. The Greeks only had two processes of mechanical reproduction, which were stamping and bronzing. At the time, bronzes, terracottas, and coins were the only artworks that were mechanically reproducible. Any other forms of art were unique and singular, and thus incapable of being mechanically reproduced. Now this placed a rather large importance on the eternal value of an art piece, and it compelled the Greeks to produce eternal values in their art, and made it so their artistic production depended on this production of eternal values. Our current society holds an opposite problem. Never before have artworks been technologically reproducible to such a vast and overwhelming degree and caliber. Film is the first art form whose artistic character is wholly intent on its mechanical reproduction. Film is the medium of art most capable of improvement, as its work is not created by a single stroke or shot, like photography or sculpture, but rather made from a series of images and sequences. Now this capability of film renounces that concept of eternal value by diminishing its importance, since film is able to neutralize its purpose. Mechanical reproductions differ. For example, photographing a painting is a different kind of reproduction than photographing an action performed for the sake of the photograph. In the first case, the photograph of a painting is a reproduction of art. In the second case, what is reproduced is not an artwork, but what the camera creates is an artistic performance. Here, the work of art is produced by montage, and each individual moment of the montage is a mechanical reproduction, which is neither an autonomous artwork or gives rise to one. So what are these reproductions in film if they are not art? Well, Benjamin uses the example of film actors compared to stage actors to answer this question. The film actor differs from the stage actor in that their performance is not performed in front of a crowd of strangers, but rather a cast and crew who are able to intervene in their performance as well as confronting an apparatus. The performance is also one of many, as there are several takes shot and the best one selected by the editor for the final cut. Therefore, the film actor's life is one comprised of test performances. The test performance of a film actor, is entirely unique in the way that it is scrutinized by mechanized tests rather than natural tests. Film is especially notable as it allows the test performances to be displayed and exhibited and turns the film actor's ability for test performance into a test itself. Benjamin states, and I quote, "To accomplish the test performance, the film actor preserves their own humanity."
As explained, the meaning of aura in the previous slides, Walter Benjamin warned that even the most perfect production of an art is lacking in one element, its presence in time and space. The loss of authenticity, in Benjamin's view, jeopardizes its unique historical testimony, thus depleting it of its aura. While he mentioned the depletion, he also noted that he welcomed the political power that mechanical reproduction of the work of art granted the masses in the form of emancipating art from its parasitical dependence of ritual. However, there is still a strong disconnect with authenticity within a given film. Mechanical reproduction in film. According to Walter Benjamin, the technology of reproduction of image and sound substituted photography and cinema for the traditional forms of art such as painting and theater, thus providing the masses with a new vocabulary for communication of politics and ideologies. With that being said, anyone can lay claim to being filmed. With technology becoming so advanced, we saw the shift from silent film to sound films. This opens the doors for the apparatus that is being used to create these films to help engineer virtual realities. As we become increasingly accustomed to artificially created virtual realities, the realism of the image and the invisibility of the apparatus, which may have been the founding blocks of the classical narrative, takes a second place to technology, drawing attention to the very apparatus used to construct the narrative. We see, due to mass production and implication of original works, the original has begun to fade. For mechanical reproduction involves the appropriation of an original. Mechanical reproduction is ingrained in the very technique of film production. The capitalist approach to film. A capitalist approach on film is what dictates the content and the production value of a film. A film can be produced, but management will have a role in the direction and pace of the creation. A film project can be produced by management, and they have the final say-so when it comes to content, budget, cast, crew, etc. Film creation, reproduction, and distribution is contingent upon risk and what is potential capital gained from the film project. Film has a lot of moving parts and people to make the film possible, making what is created by a painter impossible. Film capital uses the revolutionary opportunities implied by this control for counter-revolutionary purposes. This is where we see the disconnect between a painter and the theater. With film, it is controlled by the consumption of money and how we can distribute film to mass amounts of audiences. The capitalist structure of film might not extinguish every flame of creativity that is formed from the project of the film, but the interests of business leave scars and bruises on the aesthetic dimension of that cinema piece. The attraction of the masses, as stated in the text by Walter Benjamin, the technological reproducibility of the artwork changes the relation of the masses to art. Because art has been replicated down to the exact brushstroke, we are now seeing that there is a change in relationship towards art. While it is still marveled for its beauty, it doesn't have the same effect as the authentic piece. The appreciation of the art has diminished due to the mass production and the replication of the art. Before mass media, a painting or theater performance could only be seen by one or a few people at a single moment. No longer is it necessary to go and view art. It is readily accessible on multimedia platforms. If we think about it, we have, for example, the Louvre. You can go online and take a digital tour of the Louvre, which, as we know, is a place that holds enormous amounts of paintings in its original form. You can visit any museum and they have digital art galleries, or you can even get an exact copy of the Mona Lisa reproduced and hung in your own home. It's readily accessible, whereas before mass media and mass production, the authenticity of the brushstrokes, the effort, the energy that was put into each performance and each piece of art has now been lost to us. Architecture, the constant of art. Buildings have accompanied human existence since primal times. Many art forms have come into being and passed away. But architecture is an art form that has remained a constant because it serves a purpose other than being marveled at. Buildings are received in twofold manner, by use and by perception. While it is ever evolving, it has been a constant form of art, even within the modern world. The human need for shelter is permanent. Architecture has never had follow points. We can see this in the glorious and fabulous buildings such as the Taj Mahal and other places around the world, like the Han Dynasty and the ancient Chinese homes that we see throughout history, as well as Japanese style homes and even modern architecture in the Gothic styles of churches and palaces, in the Tudor dynasty in terms of their creation of architecture. Architecture is not something that can be taken in all at one time, but rather it is something that you are constantly discovering and constantly unraveling new perceptions